Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm going to be doing topic 6 of education, which is educational policy and inequality. So we'll start off with policies in Britain before 1988, such as the 1944 Education Act, which brought in the tripartite system influenced by the idea of meritocracy, where you receive fair power due to your own efforts and abilities. This is where children are selected and allocated to 3 different types of secondary schools through the 11+ exam, according to their own efforts and abilities, rather than it being ascribed at birth by their class background. We have the grammar schools, secondary schools, and technical schools. But this act failed because it reproduced inequality, which was the complete opposite of what they were trying to do, by channeling 2 classes into 2 different types of schools that offered unequal opportunities, which is evident here. The comprehensive school system, which was in 1965 by the Labour government, their aim was to overcome the class divide of the tripartite system and make education more meritocratic in a better way. They asked the local education authority to merge secondary modern schools and grammar schools together. Not all schools did go for comprehensive, and the grammar secondary modern divide still exists in many areas. Comprehensive schools take students to all abilities with no entrance tests, but more students are streamed by ability. So 2 theories of the role of comprehensive schools are by functionalists and Marxists. Functionalists see it as promoting social integration by bringing different classes together in one school, but Julian Ford contradicts this point as there is lack of social mixing due to classes being streamed. They also see it as meritocratic because it gives pupils time to develop abilities rather than the tripartite system testing your abilities at the age of 11, because then it would develop by them. Marxists say it reproduces class inequality through continuing the practice of streaming and labelling. These continue to deny working class children equal opportunities because they're most likely to be in the lower streams. But by not selecting children at 11, comprehensive skills may appear to offer equal chances. This myth of meritocracy justifies class inequality by making unequal achievement seem fair, because failure looks like it's the individual's fault rather than the system, because they're testing you on your abilities. Oh no, I haven't done Marketization. Oh, why didn't I do that? Who would know? Ah, I know, Shirley would. I'll FaceTime her.
Shirley, I know you're there.
What do you want?
Right, okay. I need your help with sociology.
Why?
Because I know you know the answer. Please.
Fine.
Alright, okay. So, what does marketization mean?
Basically, yeah, it's where there's a process of market forces of consumer choice and competition between schools run by the state.
Oh, so like in topic 6, where the new right and neoliberals favour an education market, because then schools will provide parents' as wishes, so they won't go out of business.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, boy.
And so is that why there are policies such as publishing league tables and offset reports of schools, and having business sponsor schools and schools specialising in a specific topic? Like our school, it used to specialise in science.
Yeah.
Okay, I get that part. But what I don't get now is what parentocracy is. Like, what is that, if you don't mind me asking?
That's where Miriam David in 1993 describes marketized education as literally being ruled by the parent instead of the schools and teachers having power, which creates diversity amongst schools and gives parents more choice and raises
But doesn't that mean it reproduces inequality because of the exam league tables?
Yeah, parents are attracted to schools with good league table rankings, of course. But if you revise the topic, then you would know
Right, sorry.
that Will Bartlett in 1933 shows that this encourages cream skimming and silt shifting, and then that creates more chances of funding formula for the better schools and less for the lower schools.
I know what that is. So then funding formula is when popular schools get more funds and to get better, and then sorry. So
What was that?
funding formula is that when schools get more funds for better teachers and facilities if they're more popular, because then their popularity helps them become more selective and attracts more people, more specifically middle class. And then the unpopular schools, they don't get much income.
Yeah, that's basically it, girl. And that leads to more segregation between
See,
children of
Shirley,
different social
you're a
backgrounds.
lifesaver. Thank you
I am.
for letting me
You're welcome,
use
girl.
your time. Alright, well, anyways, I'll see you in sociology class.
Yeah, see you next
Enjoy
lesson, girl.
painting your nails.
Yeah, you bothered me.
Love ya!
Love you too.
Bye!
So, moving on, this sociologist talks about parental choice of choosing secondary schools. He studied four secondary schools and found the differences in parents' economic and cultural capital was a cause of class differences in how far they exercise their choice of secondary school. So we have three different choosers: the privileged school choosers, who were mostly middle class and used their economic and cultural capital to gain educational capital. See, they can easily convert it. They took advantages of the choices available, and they can easily afford to move their children around the system to get the best deal out of it, such as schools doing selection by mortgage, such as moving to an affluent area to get to better schools, or paying extra travel costs to attend better schools out of the area. Semi-skilled choosers were working class, but unlike disconnected local choosers, were ambitious for their children, but they lacked capital and often found it difficult to understand the education market, so they had to rely on people's opinions about schools. And they were really frustrated at their inability to get their children into the schools they wanted because of their ambitions for them. And then we have the disconnected local choosers, who were working class parents, whose choices were restricted by lack of capital, less confident with dealing with schools and less aware of the choices available, and found difficulties to understand school admission procedures. Money is limited for them, and the nearest school was often the realistic option. The Myth of Parentocracy is by Ball, and he argues that parentocracy doesn't exist, as the education system makes it seem that all parents have are the same freedom to choose which school to send their children to. But he shows middle-class parents as having an advantage, such as moving into affluent areas, like I said, selection by mortgage, because they have a lot of money and can easily convert it to educational capital. So new Labour governments have introduced policies to reduce inequality, such as education action zones in deprived areas, specifically, with extra resources, the Aim Higher programme to raise aspirations of underrepresented pupils, and education maintenance allowances for students of low-income background to encourage them to keep on going into education after 16. Coalition government policies from 2010, so academies. Loads of schools were encouraged to leave local authority and become academies. Over 200 did in 2012 because academies have control over curriculum and they have their funds given directly by government or private education businesses. Free schools, they were run by parents rather than local authority. In 2011, 6.4% of pupils at Bristol Free School were eligible for free school meals, which is more than the city as a whole, which means that free schools take more disadvantaged pupils than the city alone, with state schools and other schools that aren't free schools. Rebecca Allen found that 20% of schools benefited from free schools if they were from highly educated families. I guess that's a problem. Fragmented centralisation by Ball. He talks about the centralisation of control, which is the government have power to decide if free schools or academies should be made because they are directly funded by them. And fragmentation, where the comprehensive system is replaced with private providers to supply diversity, which leads to greater inequality in opportunities. And also we have coalition policies reducing inequality, such as free school meals for children in reception to year 2, the pupil premium, where money is given to schools for each disadvantaged pupil they have, but this didn't go towards those that needed it, unfortunately. 1 out of 10 head teachers said it supported the pupil, whereas 9 out of 10 said it didn't, which means this wasn't beneficial. The privatisation of education. This is where there is a transfer of public assets, such as schools, into private companies, which is a source of profit for capitalists. Ball calls this the education services industry, or ESI. They are involved in many education-related activities, such as offset inspection services, providing supply teachers, and building schools, which is very profitable. Many private companies in education are foreign-owned. Edexcel, owned by the US Educational Publishing. UK's 4 leading educational software companies are owned by global multinationals such as Disney, Private companies are exporting UK educational policies to other countries, such as Ofsted-type inspections in other countries. Colaization of schools. This is where the school endorses other products through displaying logos and sponsorships. Molnar says that private companies target schools because they are a product endorsement. But this can be very limited, as Sharon Bedder found that UK families had to spend £100,000 in Tesco supermarkets in return for one computer for schools, which is quite little compared to this. Ball argues that education is now a subject to business and is bought and sold for investment. Marxists argue that privatization is used to turn education into a private profit for capitalists. So you can see this as a bourgeoisie and the money that they get from private companies using schools as a business. Young Mula, baby! Okay, so policies on ethnicity. We have assimilation, where policies helped bring ethnic minorities into mainstream British culture as a way of raising achievement, especially for those with English as not their first language. But can this be ethnocentric? Multicultural education promotes achievement of ethnic minorities through valuing all cultures in the school curriculum and raises their self-esteem and achievements. But black people do not fail for lack of self-esteem. Multicultural education fails to tackle institutional racism. Social inclusion of ethnic minorities raises achievements such as help for voluntary Saturday schools in black communities. Heidi Merzer found that there was little change in these policies, as it takes a soft approach that focuses on behaviour and culture and doesn't focus on the major problems such as ethnic inequality and racism. Policies on gender. In the 19th century, females were excluded from higher education, and in the tripartite system, the girls had to earn higher marks rather than boys in the 11 plus to get into grammar schools, putting emphasis on the inequality. Thank you guys for watching. I hope this was useful. Unfortunately, I won't be posting any more education videos. I have one more video left for sociology, which is topic 6 in families and households, which is another policy topic. If you want to learn about other topics in the book, I will post a playlist of other people's sociology revision videos on YouTube and put them in their categories and topics. So it will be useful and beneficial, so you have a feel of what everything's like. And yeah, please don't forget to check out my quiz that's on Memrise if you want to test yourself on any keywords, on research and on other topics as well. And because the exams are near, good luck in all of your exams. Thank you. Love ya. Bye.